Hello and welcome to another Arsecast Extra, as always, with James from Gunnerblog. James, good morning to you.
Good morning, Andrew. How are you this fine morning?
I'm forgetful.
Yeah, sure. What happened, listeners, is that Andrew forgot to send me the link to start the podcast. So we were just sitting in silence independently, both thinking the other one was late. Exactly.
And as you have, said and admitted to, you have maybe a little form for that. Never too long, always just a couple of minutes here or there, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I worked that into the equation. But no, I was just sitting here going, I wonder what's going on. I
became worried. I was like, Andrew hasn't sent me the link. What's happened?
Yeah.
Because you're always bang on time, and you're accurate to say I am usually between 2 and 4 minutes late. I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But anyway,
like clockwork.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, I factor that in. Start at 10:30.
Yeah,
be ready to start at 10:34. That's the time I really want to get going. 10:34. So just I tell you 10:30. So
it's the sweet spot for podcasting.
That's exactly it. How was your weekend? Anything interesting beyond all the exciting football I'm sure you've been watching?
Yeah, I have been watching a bit of football. Nothing crazy exciting.
Right.
No, I mean, I was supposed to go to a 5-year-old's birthday party and it got cancelled because all the kids have got norovirus at the moment. That's about as exciting as it got.
Yeah, stay away from that. Stay away from that. Yeah.
But I have watched some football.
Yeah?
I watched Scotland last night. You know, when we get questions which ask things like, what kind of Euros do we want our players to have? Do we want them to go all the way and come back triumphant but tired, or do we want them out early? And I'm never quite sure of the answer. I do know what kind of Euros I don't want our players to have, and it's pretty much the one Kieran Tierney has had.
Oh, poor old
It's
Kieran.
just like he's going to come back injured and sad and impossible to sell. And all in all, I genuinely do feel for him. It's been a bit of a disaster.
It really has, because, he had been injured a few times while he was on loan at Real Sociedad. And I can't remember if I said this to you or on one of the many Euro 2024 podcasts I've done over the course of the tournament so far for our Patreon members. But, the ideal scenario for Kieran Tierney was to go and, even if Scotland had the kind of tournament they had, if Kieran Tierney could give a good account of himself and show, look, I'm here, I'm ready, I can play, it would have opened a few doors for him. It would have expanded his transfer horizons, if you like. But what's happened, obviously, is completely the opposite. I think it will. We don't quite know yet just how serious the injury is. Or the exact nature. I've seen it reported a few places as a hamstring injury, but you very rarely see players get stretchered off with a hamstring injury. Anyway, the point is, it is quite serious, and if it is as serious as a hamstring injury gets, then it's quite possible that he could be out of action or in the recovery phase, until the window closes, at which point, Arsenal can't sell him. He can't go anywhere. And it's a bit of a disaster for him.
Like you say, unusual to see a player stretched off with a hamstring injury. But I think that has been confirmed, certainly by but that's Scotland's assessment anyway. And worst case scenario, could require surgery, I suppose. And that would be months, right? I mean, and look at Thomas Partey, who had surgery on a similar procedure in that kind of region. Now, we don't know that's what he'll need. We know it was enough to rule him out of the tournament. But I think the bigger problem is, we spoke about the Euros as a potential showcase, and unfortunately, his loan and his time at the Euros have showcased something that we already knew, which is that he's hugely vulnerable to injury. And it's such a shame because he's a really good football player, but he becomes a very risky investment, doesn't he?
Yeah. Like you wouldn't be inclined to take the risk if you were a manager out there looking for a left back right now. You just you just couldn't.
No. And I think even some players, we sometimes have a debate about somebody like Pedro Neto, who misses a lot of games. And to be fair, I think most Arsenal fans are of the mind that that's too great a risk. But when it's kind of a mercurial match-winning player, I think that you might be more... I think you might be more inclined to take that sort of gamble. I just feel like with a defender, they typify stability. Do you know what I mean? You want that consistency of performance. They're part of a unit in that way. And that's why I think for Kieran Tierney, this is such a blow.
Yeah. I mean, what did he say? Heartbroken was the phrase he used. I think I don't know whether he posted something on Instagram or whether it came via the Scottish FA or whatever it was. But clearly, part of it is not being able to play for his country. Part of it is not being able to help his country. Would they have been a bit better last night against Hungary if he'd been around? Quite possibly. The other part, of course, is that I think he would have understood himself just what a good showing at the Euros could have meant for his future and what kind of opportunities he might have had for a move somewhere based on how well he did or just show that he can play and he can be reliable. But it's a hammer blow. It really is. I feel very, very sorry for him. I feel we can talk about it from the perspective of Arsenal if you want and what we might have. I mean, he's absolutely ruined our transfer predictions, by the way.
I mean, that's the real tragedy here.
Yeah, that's it. But no, it's really unfortunate for him on a personal level. Whatever Arsenal might have budgeted or thought they might get in for Kieran Tierney this summer, I think they're going to have to put that to one side. Yeah.
And it's not one of those situations, when you hear players interviewed sometimes about their plans for the summer and they're like, well, let's wait and see. I'm an Arsenal player and I'll join up with the squad for training. Like, he was pretty emphatic. He did an interview with Jordan Campbell and he was like, yeah, I'm going to be moving this summer. That sort of was his plan. Absolutely. And now that looks difficult at best.
Yeah.
And I have to say, in this instance, my sympathy, as much as it's a frustration for Arsenal to not recoup that money in the transfer market, my sympathy is with him because it just feels like a real hammer blow, as you say.
Yeah.
And I thought Scotland might be able to raise his spirits by getting the result last night, but I mean, footballing mishaps do tend to follow Scotland around from time to time. They know how to fail painfully.
Yeah, well, we know that as well, don't we? From being Arsenal fans down the years, we've got a bit of that ourselves. They weren't good last night. I don't think they've had a good tournament, actually.
No.
The goal in the opening game was an own goal. I know Scott McTominay was credited with the goal in the game against Switzerland, but I mean, to me, that's an own goal as well. The guy just boots it into the top corner. Even though McTominay had a shot on target. So, if you can't score goals, and they didn't make the most of the limited opportunities they had last night, it's only going to end one way. So it's been a sad one for Scotland fans.
Yeah, I apologise to our Scottish listeners, but I did see them referred to on Twitter last night as Scotland Hotspur, which I think is about as low as it gets. But you're right, they attacked poorly, and the best chance they created was ultimately for Grant Hanley, a centre-half. And, when you're going for it, hell for leather, as they were in those 10 minutes of stoppage time, there's always that risk you get caught. And I did think that on balance, Hungary just had that bit more quality, and they showed that when they scored the winner.
Yeah, not a great deal more quality, in fairness, just a little bit, but
basically they had Szoboszlai and one or two others,
Yeah.
And I think it just gave them an edge. And I was slightly surprised by some of the Scotland substitutions, taking John McGinn off, taking Gilmore off.
Robertson.
I know they haven't had great games, but I think they're the players who you would back in that team. Robertson came off as well.
Yeah.
They're the ones who you would think maybe would unlock a defence. So I was a little bit bemused by that.
Well, there you go. It's home time for Scotland, of course. There was other Arsenal interest last night. Kai Havertz played for Germany in the 1-1 with Switzerland. I mean, it's been, for other Arsenal players, a relatively quiet sort of tournament, hasn't it? I mean, I know Havertz started well in the game against Scotland, but has been okay for Germany in the other two games. Not particularly spectacular. Jorginho,
I think he might come under a bit of pressure, to be honest, because Füllkrug came on and scored against Switzerland, and I think I'm right in saying he came on and scored against Scotland as well, maybe. I think there's a bit of clamour, a bit of German clamour for him to get his go.
Maybe I was talking to Lewis a bit earlier on in the Patreon podcast, and he sort of said Füllkrug has got more goals for Germany in an international tournament from the bench than any other player in German history.
Maybe he's tailor-made for that.
Yeah, that like obviously that's an impressive record, but it's also, if you're a manager, that's kind of handy, isn't it? There's a guy who can make a difference off the bench if you need him.
That's true, and Havertz, well, I don't think he's had great individual games, really, maybe since the opening day. He is a great structural player, as we know, and a great system player. So maybe he will keep that starting berth, but there's a little bit of pressure there now. Yeah,
I mean, it was interesting that he did keep both Havertz and Füllkrug on yesterday. So, the two big men up top is clearly the way Germany are going. A throwback to days of yore, striker partnerships of yore, I guess.
That's true. But you can always put Havertz in at left back.
That's true. Yeah. So. He's very versatile in that way, of course.
Yeah. But I was slightly surprised. I thought they would win again, but I think Switzerland are a good side. Granit Xhaka's Switzerland, of course.
Yeah.
One of those teams that aren't necessarily replete with stars, but seem to turn up for every tournament looking pretty organised and effective. And always with Jan Sommer in goal. I mean, I cannot remember a time where Jan Sommer was not in that Swiss goal.
Yeah, he's been around the block all right. They have been good, I think, Switzerland. A bit, not quite dark horses, but I think they're definitely a team to keep an eye on. Everyone's looking here, Portugal, Spain, France, Germany, maybe England, I don't know, but certainly Switzerland have got enough in terms of how they play. They look like a very well-drilled outfit, which could be the difference in a small tournament like this.
Yeah, Murat Yakin is their manager, who was a player, obviously, with Switzerland, and with his brother, Hakan Yakin, and that was a very good Swiss team too. So, yeah, they've got plenty of talent and some familiar names in there. People like Xhaka and Akanji, obviously.
Shaqiri.
Yeah, let's see who they end up playing in the next round.
Yeah. What have you made of some of the England discourse? I've been quite fascinated by what Harry Kane said, and also what Declan Rice said. Did you hear Declan Rice talking about this?
I saw a couple of quotes.
Here's a little clip. And they're talking about criticism of the England team from former England players who are appearing on television and are in the media as pundits, et cetera, et cetera. So this is Declan Rice.
I know some of them personally. They're great guys. But like I said, they've been in our shoes as well. And sometimes just to have that thought of process, just before they speak, that they have been where I'm sat and where our other players have sat and not done well at tournaments. I don't know why we feel like it's such a negative thing. Like we're talking like we're going out of the tournament here. We're top of the group. We need to stay positive, stay upbeat. Let's have some positivity going into games. Let's give players the best confidence in the world. Your players like your Phil Fodens, your Sakas, your Jude Bellinghams. Tell them they're the best players in the world. Make them read that and think, I'm going to go out there and perform and give it absolutely everything, rather than reading a negative comment sitting on their mind and then thinking that they can't play a certain way. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah, very interesting. I have to say, I think fair play, really, to the England players for that. Really? I think they're completely within their rights to say that.
Okay.
What do you think?
I just think it's strange to expect the media and people whose job it is to analyse football and provide punditry to essentially be cheerleaders.
Yeah, I think that aspect of it is a bit of a reach. What I mean is only that I do think, and I've been prone to this myself, but I do think we obviously have a tendency to catastrophize a little bit. And, you know, England's performance against Denmark was poor. There's no getting away from that. But the level of scrutiny and criticism, it was kind of open season on those players and that manager. And I think that's understandable, but I also think it's completely fair for them to say, well, we've got 4 points. We're not out. We're actually doing better than plenty of England teams have done in the past. I think that's a reasonable point.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable.
I agree with you. They can't expect them to. I don't expect the media to lie or say, you know, well done, guys, that was great. Just keep going. You're going to win it. That would be insane.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've got no issue if they want to say, look, wasn't good, we didn't play well, but we're top of the group, and, you know, maybe it's not quite as bad as people are making out. Then again, the performance against Denmark was quite bad. I thought it wasn't in any way cohesive, and with the kind of players that England have at their disposal, I suspect there's an element of expectations are much higher than they might have been for some of the other England teams, even though they are good players in the past. You know, this feels like a really quite special generation of English players, and of course, what England have done in tournaments over the last couple of tournaments has raised the expectation levels as well, right? Finals of the Euros last time. Was it semi-final of the World Cup? I can't remember. Yeah, you know, but the positivity that Declan Rice is talking about there, what you need maybe to get your Sakas and your Bellinghams and your Fodens, the way that he says it there, you know, to get them going out on the pitch feeling like they're 10 feet tall and full of confidence is entirely the job of the manager and the coaching staff. And it's not the job of the media to build players up, because, you know, I don't think that really does anybody any good. It doesn't serve the players well. It doesn't serve the pundits well. You know, if it's just about sort of banging the drum for, well, that wasn't great from Declan Rice, or that wasn't great from Phil Foden, or that wasn't great from Trent Alexander-Arnold, but they're brilliant and we should just love them. And you know, I don't know how that would work. And regardless of what those guys have done in tournaments in the past, whether they've underperformed, overperformed, or something in the middle, you know, it's just not their job. Their job is to analyse and to apply scrutiny to what they've seen. And I don't necessarily think that the criticism of the players themselves has been particularly acute. Like, you might have people saying, well, Phil Foden on the left doesn't work, or Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield doesn't work. But it's not saying Phil Foden is terrible, Trent Alexander-Arnold is terrible. It's more implicit criticism of the manager, isn't it? Because he is the one who is making those decisions.
Yeah, I think if there is a player who's been criticised, it's probably Harry Kane. I think.
Well, rightly so. Right.
Yeah, of course. And who are we to disagree with that? But yeah, I think it's interesting. I you know, if they win games, then the mood will change. And that thing Declan Rice talks about in terms of building players up, I think the opinion in sort of wider Europe outside of the UK is that a lot of these players get very built up by the English media anyway. And maybe what happens at international tournaments shows that some of that build-up is unwarranted. But I do think that it's fair for players to point out that it's not yet a catastrophe. But then that's me. I'm that guy. I'm the it's only been 3 games guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's who I am. So I would think that. But it is an interesting debate. I was slightly surprised at how strongly the players came out. I know they'd had a meeting or 2 internally, so it felt like a very united front, didn't it? Kind of, we're going to come out and play this shot, and that's our stance, that's our take. I mean, I think it could backfire. I mean, the one thing the media don't tend to take particularly kind to is criticism of themselves. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I was watching Match of the Day last night, actually, sort of waiting to see how Gary Lineker might respond. I think he was specifically mentioned maybe by Kane, or certainly alluded to. I wondered if he would reference it in his coverage, but he actually wasn't hosting the programme.
Right.
But it will be an interesting little subplot, you imagine. But yeah, I take your point. I think you're right about the criticism has mainly been off the manager.
Yeah.
And I think the frustration is that the players aren't showing their best, and that implicitly is kind of laid at his door.
It's quite funny as well, though, isn't it? Because, you know, he is and has been criticised for being quite conservative in his way, but that conservatism, if you like, has also produced tournament progression on a consistent basis that, you know, look, I've seen plenty of England teams in my life, and plenty of England teams with lots of good players, but at major tournaments, you know, it just didn't happen. It just didn't really happen for them, despite all the talent available. But when Southgate has, if you want to call it, taken a risk or taken himself slightly out of his comfort zone, because I don't think ideally he would want to play Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. But he's taken himself out of his comfort zone, and the quality of the performances, I'm not saying it's just down to Trent Alexander-Arnold, by the way, but the quality of the performances has kind of suffered or dipped a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? We actually, funny thing is, we talk a lot about this manager, but in terms of how well we know a club manager, you know, how often we see them play, how many different types of opponents they come up against, how they respond to an injury, how they rejig their teams. In some ways, we still don't know that much about Gareth Southgate. You know, he's picking from different groups of players over quite a long period of time. And, you know, like you say, he's trying something new here, and it hasn't worked. I'm really fascinated to see what he comes up with for tomorrow night, Tuesday night. England play Slovenia. I think surely at this point in time, there's a recognition that he has to change it. And I'm very curious to see what route he goes down. My bet would be he goes for, I think, more the guy he is, and probably a more conservative lineup, which is probably the opposite of what people want to see. But it wouldn't blow my mind if he went to a back three with wing backs, or brought in Conor Gallagher to the midfield for a bit of steel and running. I think that's the way it will go, rather than I must get Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham both playing number 10 in the same team. Do you know what I mean?
While Harry Kane ambles around in the same area, not touching the ball. Yeah, I think he will probably pick Conor Gallagher just because he's the safest midfield option. I know there's a lot of clamour for Adam Wharton. Do you think he will change something on the left, though? Do you think he will stick with Foden there? Will he trust in the quality of Foden? Or, you know, is somebody like Anthony Gordon an option for that left-hand side, a more natural fit? And, you know, would that make a difference to Kane's game in some way?
Maybe. I mean, I have to say, I think even Bukayo Saka may be vulnerable at this point in time, just because I think there is such an urgent, pressing need to change it. And it wouldn't amaze me if he flipped Foden to the right. I think we might see Saka and Foden going back to sort of sharing games. Quite who would get the nod. I mean, generally it has been Saka throughout Southgate's time with England, and hopefully it will continue to be, but I can't be sure. I was just thinking about a Declan Rice and Conor Gallagher midfield partnership for England. Two such strong English names there for those guys. But I mean, we had to pick our teams, right, for the Athletic for this game.
Right.
They asked a number of journalists what we would do. And I know everyone reading will have thought it was just Arsenal bias, but I would leave Harry Kane out of this game. Honestly. I know he's a sensational goal scorer, right? And we know that unfortunately, as well as anybody. He even managed to score against us this season. But I think that he's a problem in this team right now. And I think, why not change it? It's the third group game. You know, you could probably just about get away with saying, oh, it's a bit of rotation, it's a bit of resting. If it doesn't work, bring him back in. But he doesn't press. He doesn't run in behind. And I think he wants to drop deep and play in all the same spaces that you've currently got Jude Bellingham occupying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've got Ollie Watkins, who is absolutely flying, right? Has had a brilliant season with Aston Villa. I think it would instantly make England a more dynamic team. You could press from the front. If you bring in a holding midfield player, maybe you know, like a Wharton, you could let Declan Rice, you know, push on and press too. I think suddenly England are much more athletic, a different proposition. And I would, hand on heart, that's what I would try on Tuesday.
I think you're absolutely right. Genuinely. And I'm
really?
not, yeah, really? I think you're absolutely right, because I've watched the two England games. I think Kane has been pretty disgraceful, really. Genuinely. And I'm not just saying that because it's Harry Kane. You know, the moment Watkins came on against Denmark, within a couple of minutes, he was making a run towards the Danish goal, running at the back four, rather than Harry Kane running at his own defenders and midfielders.
Yeah,
that's what he's been doing. I mean, he had 2 touches in the first half of the first game. Like, I don't...
It's reminiscent of late-stage Lacazette, I would say. I
think that's a reasonable comparison. I think, obviously, Kane is a much better finisher and goal scorer than Lacazette ever was. But you can see that this... I think in this tournament, he has been a net negative for England, despite the fact he scored the goal the other night. You know, it was just kind of lucky. It broke to him in the box, and I think any professional player would have been able to score that goal from there. So I don't see it as like a massively huge contribution from Harry Kane, above and beyond, obviously, he's scoring the goal. Like, I think any player in that position would have scored it. But I think he is a problem for England, and I think you outlined perfectly what those problems are. The legs aren't what they need to be. He's playing for himself rather than the team.
And I would change it. And I say that, you know, fully aware of how effective Kane's been for England down the years. And if England get a penalty, you'd probably try and bring him on for it. But yeah, I would change it. I think Watkins deserves a run. And look, I think England have got a very good chance of going through, regardless of what happens. If it doesn't work, by all means, go back. But if we are in a point where we need to change it, that seems to me something that would immediately reinvigorate the team. But it's a huge call, and it's not one, I don't think, that is in Southgate's nature to make.
No, that's too much of a risk, I think. But I think your logic is impeccable there. So,
why, thank you, Andrew.
That's okay.
I will be applying for the job if Gareth vacates it in the summer. We'll see. Hopefully they put it to a Twitter poll and the Arsenal fans can vote me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what a job that would be. Like an England manager.
I know. Who wants that job?
Who indeed?
Graham Potter, I imagine. But
yeah, maybe. Maybe so. We'll come back to Euros. I think we've got a few questions about the Euros, so we might do some of those again. But there's been a couple of little things on the transfer front when it comes to Arsenal. Like, you know, I think everything at the moment is quite spurious. A link last week, again, to Viktor Gyökeres. I don't know.
It seemed quite spurious, to be honest.
Yeah.
I clicked on the aggregator tweets and clicked through to all the sort of various journalist profiles, but couldn't really see anything that made me sit up and take notice. He's a player Arsenal have watched, and he was on the list at one time. My sense over the last few months has been that that's cooled somewhat. You know, I think if he really was the guy heading into the summer, I think there would have been a lot more contact with the players' camp and sort of keeping that situation warm. Now, obviously, we pretty much know that the reason that didn't happen is because Benjamin Sesko was the number one target. with him off the table? Do you suddenly, are you like, oh, sorry guys, sorry I didn't pick up your call. Just been my phone was broken. Don't believe any of that stuff you read about Benjamin Sesko. It was always you, Victor. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe that is what you have to do, but I certainly don't think it's like Arsenal are going to knock on Sporting's door tomorrow with a whatever it is, €100 million release clause or something. I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, that one didn't make a lot of sense to me, and like you said, it didn't look particularly reliable when it emerged last week.
I mean, listen, we can't rule it out, because if Arsenal do decide they want to send a forward, when you're compiling a name of half a dozen lists in Europe, I think given what he did last season, he is going to be on there. I just think that these Portuguese clubs, and this sort of applies to one of our midfield targets as well, João Neves, who plays for Benfica. I think Chelsea, as usual, have just ruined everything because they effectively paid the release clause, didn't they, for Enzo? Yeah. And I think these Portuguese clubs have got quite good at sort of holding out for these huge, what are they, 8-figure sums of money? And I'm just not sure we're playing in that ballpark this summer. It's
nine figures, no? If you're over the 100.
Thanks. I'm math isn't my thing.
No, it's
just tactics. I mean, famously, I'm a tactical mastermind.
I'll come back to another transfer story in a second, but you mentioned Chelsea ruining everything.
I'm glad that we've segued onto this, actually.
And it is just what they do. But we had a question from Simon on Twitter, SHS Harrington. He said, should we be outraged by recent PSR chicanery or feel really optimistic about the future as Chelsea descend into the taking out payday loans stage of financial mismanagement? And, people haven't been paying attention. Basically, after selling a couple of hotels to themselves to get around the PSR rules, Chelsea are now in cahoots with Aston Villa. Are Everton involved and Newcastle involved in some way as well?
Yeah, I think Everton certainly have done a deal.
So what they're doing is they're going into, they're selling young players to each other, which is sort of like going into a shop and saying, ooh, there's a kettle for £10. I will sell that to you for £1 million. And
and you made the kettle, so it's 100% profit.
Yeah. It's nonsense. These young players who may be talented, who probably are talented, are being moved around for sums which have no bearing on their actual market value, so that these clubs can book the profits before the end of June to get around the PSR regulations. I mean, look, it's obviously pretty fucking terrible, but it also says a lot about the way the game or the financial management of the game is or has been created, that this is all perfectly legal and they can get away with it and they can exploit these loopholes and everyone can say, well, that's bollocks. That's, it's basically fraud. You're committing fraud here, but nobody can do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of that. I think this absolutely stinks, I've got to say. And I think it's mad, to be honest, that the media are just sort of reporting these like they're normal transfers. That's blowing my mind. That you'll just see a story and it's like Chelsea have agreed to sign like Billy Jim Job McLean or whatever, who you've never heard of, for like 25 million.
Yeah.
He's played 18 minutes for Aston Villa and no one knew he was alive until about 4 days ago. And everyone's just like, oh, that seems normal. Like, none of the context of, well, this is entirely just a way to circumnavigate the rules seems to be present in the reporting. That's blowing my mind, for a start. Second of all, I hear people say, it's the rules, though, isn't it? And I certainly had fans of other clubs saying to me, well, it's perfectly legal. And I'm like, lots of things are perfectly legal. Doesn't mean they don't fucking stink to high heaven. There are plenty of tax evasion schemes that are legal. Doesn't make them right. doesn't make them good, doesn't mean I have to like them. And I actually think it's a bit of a bullshit argument. I know, okay, maybe the laws need refining to prevent this act. But I kind of feel like that's a sort of bad faith argument in some ways. Like, you know, these are some of the sort of most successful, most wealthy business people in the world. They're going to find ways around stuff, right? In the same way they've been finding ways around tax for years and years, they'll find ways around whatever regulations are put in place. And it's going to be an ongoing process of sort of tightening those rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is really grim. And
yeah, I agree.
And I know people have said, well, if Arsenal were doing it, would you say that?
I think I would.
I think I would say it was pretty grim. Yeah. Like
if it was just a case that we were like, oh, amazingly brilliant at selling and we managed to get a load of money in for a load of youth players, that's very different from a sort of an organized, what's the right way to put this? Like these clubs are in cahoots with each other to do this, right? So there's been obviously a level of discussion. I'm not saying it's organized crime, but you know, it's organized. This is organized. And by the way, just in case any of our listeners out there got the wrong idea, tax evasion is most definitely illegal.
Oh shit! Someone should have told me that.
Tax avoidance is legal.
Right.
Whether it's morally right. So just, you know, for anyone out there who is just, planning a bit of evasion, avoid. Or, you know.
Or pay them.
Or pay your taxes for the benefit of society and, you know, everybody.
That's down to you, but don't evade. It's weird. And I think in the context of City's case against the Premier League, the 115 charges having not resulted in a punishment as yet, I kind of feel like if clubs are allowed to get away with this and City win their case this summer, then it's the fucking Wild West, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you enforce anything at that point in time?
You can't. If that's what happens, you can't. You either embrace the madness or I don't know what you do. Don't know what the alternative is. But it would be fairly catastrophic for any sense that you could regulate is the wrong word, but maintain at least the facade of competitiveness in the Premier League and financial fair play. That's not really, I mean, what a load of bollocks that is, really.
The thing for me is like, these aren't real transfers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're not transfers that these clubs want to do on sporting merit.
Yes.
And that's a problem. That I mean, I shouldn't have to say that, but that is impacting the integrity of your competition, in my opinion. And I think it's so grim. But maybe that is just the way football's going. Hooray!
Maybe so. I mean, it could be part of, you know, a consequence, let's say, of the way transfers have become almost a game in themselves.
Yeah.
Over the last while. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And listen, I'm sure every industry has these kind of workarounds in it and, you know, assets change hands for lots of money. Man, it just feels so dodgy though. And it feels kind of anti-sport in some ways. But, you know, the other thing, there are two other things to say. One is if they do get away with it and if it remains a loophole to be exploited, then at some point, even if I might not like it, Arsenal might have to play that game too.
Keep up with the Joneses.
If everyone else is doing it, you know, we followed suit in some respects in the past, you know, selling our naming rights for our ground and some of the sponsors and, you know, partnerships we've taken on. We've had to play the game to a certain extent, and it may be that we have to hold our nose and play the game a bit here. The other thing is what the question initially alluded to, which is, could it be something that comes back to bite Chelsea and others down the road? And I do think, from what I understand, speaking to people who understand it better than me, all this is doing really is just kicking a can down the road in PSR terms. And they are still going to have a serious issue to reckon with in the years to come.
I mean, that is interesting because, if it becomes the Wild West, then, as you said a bit earlier, clubs like Man City and Newcastle won't worry about this at all, surely, because they can just fucking do what they want with their very rich owners. But if your owner is whatever the fuck owns Chelsea, some kind of investment fund or a hedge fund or part of it anyway, you're just part of a portfolio of something, then if you're desperately trying to move money around to balance the books, that doesn't tend to end well. What are those things in those big pointy buildings in Egypt? There's a word, isn't there? Anyway, you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. I really do. It's going to be an interesting week on that front because PSR deadline is the end of this week, right? So there's some clubs that need to do business urgently, and Arsenal, thankfully, at this point in time, are not one of those clubs. So I almost think it's a window unto itself.
It's just a shame that there are other clubs out there, because of their own financial positions, are willing to help Chelsea when they could let them die.
That's true. Yet more reason to seek revenge on Aston Villa next season.
Anyway, just to go into the break, the other transfer rumour, we talked about spending money. So 60 million from Stan's back pocket for Eze. What are you saying?
Yeah, where was that rumour printed? I mean,
I think it came from Team News and Ticks on his show with Charles Watts.
Charles Watts.
I think that's where it came from, but I don't know 100%.
Well, Andrew, that he's a player I love. And at the end of season live podcast, I think we all named a player maybe that we'd like to see arrive, and he was mine. And, not since Arsenal went and bought Alexis Sanchez when I wanted him have I... Oh, my doorbell's gone.
Doorbell
music, please.
Hang on, here we go. Hello.
It's a shit show, mate. So I live in a converted house.
Yes.
Flats. And there's about a dozen flats in the building. And basically all the post and delivery people have realised that I'm effectively self-employed and always at home. So whoever they have a package for, they ring my doorbell. And they all, to a man, pretty much lie and say, is there a delivery for you? And you go, okay, leave it downstairs. And you go downstairs later. And lo and behold, there's nothing in your name.
Not for you at all. They just wanted access to the building.
Exactly, yeah. So there you go. But yeah, Eze, I would be excited. I really like him. 60 million release clause has been reported. I do think that is pretty good value in this market.
But you do have to pay most of it up front, I think.
Well, that's the problem with all these release clauses. Yeah. A lot of them anyway. Like the guys in Spain, Nico Williams or something. It's like, he's got a release clause. Well, you basically have to turn up with it in a briefcase. So
in Spain, in cash. That's why they do things over there.
Yeah.
The notario takes his 10%.
They're not evading tax, though, Andrew.
They're just not declaring it at all.
Yeah, they're just avoiding. So... I think he'd make actually a ton of sense. I don't myself right now know whether he is or is not a target, but logically, why not? I mean, he could play in midfield as number 8. He can play in a more advanced role as well, play off the left. I think stylistically, he's a fit. Crystal Palace have already lost one of their crown jewels. They might as well cash in all their chips. Do you know what I mean?
Just get a load of money in and then go spend it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, they're going to lose Elise to Bayern. Commiserations, by the way.
So that's okay. I'm sad.
At least Chelsea didn't ruin that.
Exactly. I'm sad that he's not coming to us, but I'm delighted he's not going to Chelsea because fuck Chelsea.
I did enjoy the way that story came out, that Chelsea withdrew from the race. did you see this? They withdrew from the race on financial grounds. The salary demands were too high. And then about 14 minutes later, it was announced that he's going to Bayern. I was like, that's the kind of withdrew they did. Okay.
Yeah. We didn't really want him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Palace haven't got control of this situation, have they? Because there's a clause. I was going to say, you know, if they sell Elise, maybe they'll think we want to keep Eze. Maybe they're working on a new deal for him, you know, one that lifts the clause or eradicates it and puts him on big money. It would be kind of, I mean, I don't care, but as a Palace fan, it must be pretty gutting to think that they could lose their 3 best players this summer.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I did speak to Dan from HLTCO on one of the Patreon pods about Elise and about the Bayern thing. And, you know, he's gutted to lose him because he rates him so highly. But he's obviously delighted he's not going to Chelsea because I think he was just getting it in the neck from Chelsea fans online all the time going, you're going to lose Elise and we're going to sign him. So they didn't, and fuck those guys. So yeah, I like Eze as well. I think he'd be a very, very interesting signing in a summer as well when maybe Emile Smith-Rowe might be on the move, maybe Fabio Vieira might be on the move. That feels like a sensible and relatively affordable deal for a player of that kind of quality, even if the lump sum aspect of it might be a little tricky. Okay. We'll take a little break here. We're going to come back with your questions and more in part 2 right after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 of the show where we answer questions that you send to us on Twitter at Gunnerblog and at Arseblog. Also on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. Just a quick announcement. Arsenal are going to be in the US this summer. They're going to be in Los Angeles and Philadelphia. We are going to be there, James.
We are.
We're going to be in Los Angeles and Philadelphia. And I'm pleased to announce that we are hooking up with those guys at Arsenal Vision again. We're going to sell one another to each other for tax avoidance purposes. But we're also going to do a live podcast event at a very, very cool venue called Cosm in Los Angeles. I can't quite explain this. I know Elliot has seen the technology, but there's this sort of immersive video technology that makes you feel like you're actually in the ground watching it. So we're going to do some video stuff. There's going to be some highlights from last season, including a couple of games that were filmed with this new technology. We're going to do a bit of a live podcast. There's going to be some Arsenal stuff afterwards as well. There might be some Arsenal attendees, I think, coming along after we've finished. There's food there. There's drinks there. So you can come early. You can hang out afterwards, have some food, have some drinks. We'll be there, and it's promising to be a very good night. You'll find a link to the tickets. They're only $15. They're selling well already, even though it's only just gone on sale. So act quickly if you're going to be in LA this summer. The link will be in the show notes, so you can find it there, or you can go to cosm.com and look for the events tab there. That is COSM. So, yeah, that's what's going on in LA. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're also doing something in Philadelphia. Me and you were doing something with Jacob from Poorly Drawn Arsenal. So that could be fun. And can I just send my congratulations to Jacob and Liz, who got married at the weekend? So,
oh, wow. Congratulations.
Wishing you many, many years of happy and healthy life together, and congratulations on everything. And we'll see you in the summer. So it's all going on.
It's great. Looking forward to meeting, hopefully, lots of you out there.
Yes. All right. I'll let you go first with a question. How about that?
Okay, let's do that. Well, what about prepared. This? Yeah. I've scanned through about 4 questions and I was like, we've done that. We found one we haven't done. Silent Fox 1 on Discord. Am I a dumb yank?
I don't know.
American, he's put.
Oh, right.
But why can't the Premier League employ the same VAR rules as the Euros?
I guess because of PGMOL.
Yeah. And is he a dumb yank?
I've got no idea. I presume not, though, because if he's one of our Patreon members and is on our Discord, he's a man of discerning taste.
That's
quality.
True,
so he can't be. Yeah, look, it's been so different, hasn't it? That the VAR, when decisions are made, it's happening in like 15 seconds. The one in the Switzerland-Germany game last night, Switzerland thought they'd made it 2-0 and there was a VAR check, and literally within 20 seconds they were able to say, yeah, it's offside. Game continues. Howard Webb sitting at home, absolutely fuming.
His mind blown.
They're fucking...
How are they doing this? To him, like, these European referees are like Neo in the Matrix. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're working on Sonic time. And he's like, this is incredible. How are they doing this without taking up to 8 minutes to analyse the footage?
It's just fucking...
I can't even see them drawing the lines. Yeah, I mean, listen, semi-automated offside is coming. That is the good news. The bad news is that the one Euros game I saw which had a protracted VAR decision was the English officials.
Stuart Atwell.
Man, habit of a lifetime, I guess.
I mean, there was another question here from Sam, who's at Lights Out Sam on Twitter. He said, how badly would you like to see the Premier League take on referees from around the world rather than just stick with the same pool of guys from more or less the same area in England? I mean, there is that discussion comes up quite a lot, doesn't it? Where, can you bring in or relocate officials from abroad to officiate in the Premier League? I mean, it's a nice idea. There is obviously, though, the practical element of getting a guy who's happy living his life in Spain or Italy or France and moving him to the UK. I mean, maybe they could just fly in for the games, I suppose. But
well, money changes people's minds as well, and the Premier League is awash with that. So, I mean, I'm a big proponent of that. I think it's kind of absurd that we have this league where we bring in the best players from all over the world, but the referees have to come from within 20 miles of Grimsby. Do you know what I mean? It just seems ridiculous. I do think that with the Euros, I think there are sort of 2 other things at play beyond the sort of incompetence of PGMOL, which is, one is we are seeing the best of the best in terms of referees. Literally the best of every nation are being brought to participate in that tournament. And there is, referees aren't robots, right? Some of them are better than others. And we're seeing the best that Europe has to offer at this point in time.
Yeah.
I do also think, and this is maybe a bit more controversial, but I think our perception of international tournament refereeing is aided by the fact that broadly we're quite neutral in it. So it's not, the decisions aren't tied with that sort of weight of subjectivity of, oh, they've given United this, oh, Liverpool got that.
I know what you mean.
And the sort of cumulative thing over a course of a season as well. Like, the Wolves case study, for example, where it's like over months a narrative built. There isn't really that time in a tournament. And I found it really interesting, actually, last night after the Scotland game. I logged on to BBC Sport and the top 3 stories were all about a penalty claim and VAR.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's because it's a British nation and we care that much more about the decisions. And I'm sure if something happened in an England game, it would be the same. So I do think that although the officiating has been better, I think that's sort of important context to be like, I think we also see it through a different prism. I don't think we particularly care if Hungary or Austria get it. Maybe that's a bit broad, but I think there's something in it.
I do know what you mean. I know what you mean. I think that's probably part of it. Steve Clark, I played this on the Euros pod this morning, but I got to play it again here. This was his reaction to Scotland not being awarded a penalty last night and the decision maker.
It's a penalty. I do not know for the life of me why it's not given.
Have you asked about that and why it didn't go to VAR?
It's from Argentina. I would ask him. Probably doesn't speak the language. I don't know. Why is he here? Why is he not a European referee?
So not everyone wants the officials from all over the world, you know?
Wow.
I love that.
I mean, do you think that was a penalty, by the way?
No, absolutely not. No, it really wasn't. I think he could have stayed on his feet. He could have got a shot off, and he chose to initiate contact and try and win a penalty when he could have had a shot. But I did like that. Did you ask? He's from Argentina.
I know. Crazy.
I know. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But in typical PGMOL style, the introduction of semi-automated offsides can only happen in October, not at the start of the season. And I don't quite know. I don't quite know how that will play out. There'll probably be some kind of controversy about a decision that happened before semi-automated offside and after.
Yeah. I would say not probably, definitely.
What is your prediction? Putting you on the spot here because I've only just thought of this. But what is your prediction for the thing that comes in at the start of the season that they don't communicate to anybody except the commentators? And the commentators will tell us in the first game of the season, or maybe in the Community Shield like they did last season, this is going to be applied across the board. Players won't be allowed to do this and referees will be able to do that. And none of us know anything about it. And then after about 3 months of the season, it's just by the wayside.
I would say it's going to be something of sort of complete inconsequence that is massively overemphasized. So maybe it'll be something like double checking that the ball is placed in the right section when taking a corner or something like that.
Someone's at my door now. Hang on one second.
Oh, okay.
Hang on. It was a package.
Yeah.
For me.
Probably for one. Just lucky you. For me, probably for one of my neighbours.
Yeah, for one of your neighbours.
So, yeah, something stupid like that.
Yeah.
What have you made of the whole only the captain can talk to the referee business?
I haven't really noticed it that much.
No. But I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, maybe that might be something they try and implement.
I think I'd like to see that, to be honest. I think it's logical, and I think it lends to just sort of more palatable on-field dialogue and less dissent. So yeah. I think that there's no reason not to do that, and I actually like that it gives the captain a bit more sort of
authority.
Agency. Like it matters more, essentially.
Yeah.
Who wears the armband, and I think that's quite nice.
Yeah. The only thing I would say, of course, is it's got to be communicated properly to the players so that they can modify their behavior. And I also think like a common sense approach to its implementation is really important from the officials and from the referees, because
totally,
issuing a whole load of yellow cards early in the season as like, well, we told you and you didn't listen. Now here's your yellow card. Let's just have a couple of reminders along the way. Like the first time a player in the height of a game, in the heat of passion, and the referee gives a foul against him and he says something out loud, whether it's directed to the referee or not, you know there's going to be somebody like fucking handing out a yellow card, and he could just say, hey, listen, bring the captain over and say, remind your players, remind your teammates that, you know, you're the only one who can communicate. I mean, even that, though, I do think, you know, we're talking about adults and grown men and not being allowed to say anything to a referee if you're a player. Like, I think you should be able to communicate with the officials. I suppose it's about what you say and how you say it, right? Like, just not being allowed, not being allowed to talk to a referee during a game. There's something a little off about that as well. Although I do understand why that would be implemented to sort of cut down on the sort of rage and back chat and all that, and to set a good example, etc. But it's going to take some change, isn't it? Because it's not something that footballers are very good at, like not talking to the ref. They're always doing it.
It's a big cultural shift,
yeah, for
sure. Have you got any sort of particular thing you think they might target, the referees?
No, I thought of the question and then was quite glad that I didn't have to think of an answer. So that's what I said it to you. That old one. Yeah, there'll be something, you know, I agree. It'll probably be something very minor. And as usual, it will be enforced for a while and then forgotten about. So
yeah, to do with the height of shin pads, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. So.
Okay, this question is almost more of a philosophical question.
Okay.
Martinelli the Elephant says, gents, at what point do previous Arsenal kits cross the divide from old to retro? My suspicion is when the sponsor is different to the current one. That's true. Like next year, if we wear like the fluorescent yellow kit, that's not a retro kit. It's just an old kit.
Yeah.
What's the most recent retro kit?
I would say maybe the one where, remember when we signed all the British players?
Yeah.
Where we had Gibbs, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Jenkinson, Aaron Ramsey.
The British core.
The British core. Was that not the year we had that really lovely yellow and blue away kit?
Oh, let's have a look.
I feel like, were they not all pictured in that kit?
Was that 2015-16?
2013-14 maybe?
13-14. Oh, that was the plain yellow with the blue collar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds plausible.
I'd say that's 10 years.
Right, that feels like a good window.
Even though it's got the same sponsor as now. But I feel like the classic nature of that kit, and the fact it's 10 years ago, and the fact that nobody who was pictured in that kit is still playing, gives it retro status.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, obviously everything Highbury is very retro at this point in time. But yeah, I think 10 years is a pretty good... I'm just looking at everything that's followed since then, and I'm not sure it classifies as retro.
No.
It doesn't look kind of antique in that way. It's interesting because like some of the kits, like the 2019-20 away kit, is kind of a retro kit in itself because it's based on the bruised banana. But I don't think it qualifies because of the timings.
No, I agree. Okay, let's have another question here. This comes from Master Johnbury on the Discord. He said, you have both at various points said you think the squad could use some raw pace in attack. Can you explain why? These days, we more often have to break down a deep block, which pace doesn't usually help with. So why do you think pace is so important for any wide forward signing?
Well, that's a very good point. I think because there's multiple ways to score, and I think as much as, you know, we often encounter that deep block, it's not entirely by design. I think in an ideal world, we'd still like to be scoring goals where we're able to transition quickly and get our fullbacks one-on-one. And I think the fact that we don't, not fullbacks, our wingers one-on-one with their fullbacks rather. And I think there's a lot we can do to progress the ball quicker and try and engineer those situations on the pitch. And I think if we want to get the best out of the likes of Saka and Martinelli and any other prospective signings, we need to do that. Sometimes in the final period of games, they become stretched and, pace is important there. I actually think the question makes a really good point, but I would say it's a generalisation, and there are game states or even moments within matches in which pace can be really important. For
sure. And I think the other thing I would add to that is when people think about pace, they think about a guy
running 50 yards.
50 yards in behind a defence and leaving the defenders for dust. Pace can also be present over 5, 6, 10 yards. And even if a game is slightly condensed, or if you're playing it primarily in the opposition half, a guy who's got the ability to run quickly off the back of defenders or into spaces, when you've got players like Martin Odegaard who can find those passes, I think pace is still a valuable weapon in the top end of the pitch. It also just gives you something you don't already have. We talked about... what did I say? For a while we were very 5'9" in attack. We added Kai Havertz, who gives us a bit more presence, who gives us something different, who gives us a quality we didn't already have. And I think, when you're trying to win football games, having as many strings to your bow, if that's the right way to put it, is important. And pace, blinding pace, or certainly somebody who's got that kind of zip, gives us something we don't have a great deal of. It's not like we're all completely slow, but just somebody who's a bit of a flyer would be very nice.
Yeah. I mean, Freddie Ljungberg's a great example of someone who was quick over 5 or 6 yards, and it made a world of difference. And also, you can be quick. There are people who are quick off the ball, and there are people who can carry the ball quickly as well. And that's a real asset. Someone like Alexis Sanchez could dribble at real speed. And variety. You just want variety. So, I still want pace.
Yeah.
Can't have enough pace, basically. Okay, Banjo AFC says, do you think we'll see any changes in the managerial staff this off-season? And if yes, who?
I've got no fucking idea.
Yeah.
I really do. I know there was some links with Carlos Cuesta and Norwich, weren't there? And, we've talked about him maybe a bit before about how... he's doing his time, he's learning his trade, and at some point he might want to go on and be a manager or a head coach somewhere himself. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm interested to see, the longer Arteta stays, will he add different things to his coaching staff? He strikes me as somebody who, if he felt an addition in that area would give his team an extra 0.001% over the course of a season, he would do it. Mm-hmm. If you do it with a playing staff or players that you bring in, why wouldn't you try and do it with a throw-in coach or a corner coach or a set-piece coach for the set-piece coach? Whatever it might be, I think he would be open to doing it. But in terms of the personnel we have there right now, I don't know. There was talk of Albert Stuyvenberg leaving as well.
He's been linked with some posts, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has been. But I don't know. That's the honest answer. I do not know. It wouldn't surprise me if something happened, but I've got no information as to whether anything is being cooked up in the background or whether we're going to need to replace anyone.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Mikel Arteta's contract expires next summer, and I think most of his coaching staff are in the same position. So if Mikel is going to be in contract talks this summer, they will be too, and they are separate negotiations. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what comes out of that. You would imagine that their loyalty to the manager means they'll extend for a commensurate amount of time. I think if anyone goes, Stuyvenberg would be the one, simply because, from things I've heard, I think he may have designs on management again. He's a little bit older and his stock is very high right now. So it might be a good time for him to take that step if an appropriate job comes up. But I don't expect any great overhaul there. There's a couple of other things in the background. I think the head physio, Jordan Rees, has left the club and will need to be replaced. I think they're bringing in a new physio.
Well, that's good. They're not replacing him with a chair or something. So that's good.
For now. I think it's going to be a physio rather than, say, I don't know, a dentist or a chimney sweep. And although maybe those professions have more transferable skills than I envisage. And yeah, I don't know really beyond that. I'm not expecting anything too dramatic, to be honest with you. I mean, the real focus for me is Arteta's contract, and if and when that can get sorted, I think it would be fantastic if it could be sorted this summer.
I think so as well. You know, if you're going out in the transfer market and you can provide players with, you know, assurance that the manager is going to be there, I think that plays a big part, or not a big part, but I think it's just part of the conversations that you would be having if you're Edu and Richard Garlick and these guys. If you're having conversations with agents and players, the question is going to be asked of you, isn't it? Like, if we come here, if my player signs for Arsenal, is Mikel Arteta going to be here for not just next season but subsequent seasons? I think that's just going to be a natural part of those conversations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
What about this one from TKAFC on Twitter, who's at TK Teekster, who says, "Morning, chaps. Have any players at the Euros impressed you enough to warrant an Arshavin-esque post-tournament purchase?"
Ooh. I mean, Arshavin, we didn't actually get him for another 6 months, don't forget.
Yeah.
He had that extraordinary kind of breakout tournament, but he stayed with Zenit until... Actually, February. I think it was early February that deal got done.
Oh, yeah. It was a couple of days after the deadline and stuff, wasn't it? Because
in the February snow.
I am Gunnar.
I mean, the one I've seen people talk about, and I can understand why, is Nico Williams. You know, I think he's done well. He had a very good game for Spain the other night. He plays in a part of the pitch where you could see he could add something. So, you know, I wouldn't be averse to that. I have to be honest and say not a ton of players have jumped at me, and I think that's basically just because we're very good. And I'm not casting envious eyes at too many people in this tournament. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, Williams, Musiala's been good as well.
Oh, I mean, yeah, listen, if there's a world where we can get Musiala, then of course that's a no-brainer.
But then, I don't think there's anybody sort of broken through where you're going, ooh, never heard of him before, and look at what he's been doing. I don't think we've had that guy at the tournament so far.
No, I mean, no, there hasn't really been that sort of breakout star, and also we know a lot of the names.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These days there aren't that many surprises. No, I mean, there's time though, right? There's time.
There is time. Yeah, let's see if somebody can make themselves a household name and a bit of a hero. I'll continue if that's all right. Yeah, sure. Genghis Khan on the Discord says, "The Euros is reminding everyone how much fun long-range goals are. Do you think teams in the Premier League will shift back to scoring belters that were commonplace about 15 plus years ago, or has the Premier League evolved beyond this?"
I hope not. As in, I hope we get them back. I do. You've got to love like a 30-yard thunder bastard, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know that it's not the game model. I know it's not the Pep philosophy. But they are the goals you really remember often. And there's nothing quite like it. And, you know, we had a couple here and there. Declan Rice scored a good goal at West Ham last season, but I feel like we've been burned by Thomas Partey, haven't we? You know, the sort of wasteful shots from 25, 30 yards.
That everyone says, I wish you would stop doing that.
Yeah. I think that's kind of suppressed our appetite. But I'd love to see them come back. I'm not sure we have... I mean, I guess Rice... You know,
Saka can hit them. Odegaard can hit them.
Odegaard as well. I mean, he has scored a couple of long-range goals, but they tend to be sort of bottom corner, sort of daisy cutters. Do you know what I mean? And I think they are a little bit less spectacular as a consequence.
I want to see William Saliba stride forward on one of those runs and everyone backs off. The aura of Saliba, sends them backwards, retreating towards their own box. And he hits that sweet spot in midfield, just slightly right and centre, where it's about, he's midway between the halfway line and the opposition box. And he just pushes it forward and just pushes it forward once more again. And from like 38.3 yards, just fucking lashes one into the top corner. I really feel like that is about the only thing that's missing from our William Saliba Arsenal experience so far.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Hey, listen, he's been, I guess, a breakout star of the Euros. Pleased for him to have got his place in the France team. And I'm enjoying all the British pundits' sort of consternation at the idea he might not have played for France.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been watching him, in fairness.
Exactly, yeah, which is a bit more than Didier Deschamps.
What about this one? Hailend Hurula. If Arsenal were a team in the Euros, the People's Republic of Arsenal, for example, how far would they go in the tournament?
Ooh. So we've got all our players, right?
Yeah. And they're not playing for their countries.
Doesn't play for England. Yeah. I think we'd win it.
I think we'd have a very good chance, yeah. A very good chance.
I think a lot of good club sides should win it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just because of the cohesion and consistency.
Absolutely. And all those relationships that you build up over time. And also because they are cherry-picking players from all over the globe. So I think any sort of Champions League quarter-finalist would be considered a favourite in the Euros. And I think Arsenal are good enough that, they absolutely could win it.
Yeah.
Maybe we should lobby for that.
The People's Republic of Arsenal. What about that? Yeah.
Separate ourselves off. Govern ourselves.
What could go wrong?
Absolutely. Ryan Marshall. Morning, guys. James often talks. Sounds boring. James often talks about how a player's wages could be impediment to a potential move. I do wang on about that. For example, Nelson being on inflated Premier League wages and this being seen as a complication for any mooted move to European team. So his question is it uncommon for a player in their prime to accept a pay cut? And if so, does it need to be facilitated by the selling club?
I'm not sure I know enough about how these deals go down.
So I would say it is unusual.
I would have thought so, without some kind of facilitation from the selling club where, like, a player can't realistically expect to earn the same at a different club. Like, if Eddie Nketiah leaves for Crystal Palace, I don't think he should realistically expect to be paid the same at Crystal Palace as he is paid at Arsenal. I just, their wage bill, their wage structure is different. Bigger clubs have more money and can afford to pay bigger wages, right? I just think that's normal.
Yeah.
But also, if you're Eddie Nketiah, why would you want to leave? Why would you want to take a pay cut, rather? So does anyone changing their job in any walk of life go to a job where they're paid less? I don't think it really happens. I think that's just human nature. So, the incentivization of transfers, I guess, is something that probably happens a bit more in the background than people realize. And it makes up for whatever shortfall there might be when you go to a different club.
Yeah. I remember one agent, this would have been about 10 years ago, saying to me, players never lose money when they move. And I remember being quite taken aback by that. I've since found out that's not entirely true. There are, of course, situations where players do take a pay cut or do forego a loyalty bonus or something that they're owed in the terms of their existing contract in order to move. But most players, I guess like most people in any job, if you change your job, but you're working in the same industry and you're the same degree of qualified and the same degree of experience, when you move, in general, you're looking at an uplift, right?
Yeah.
At the very least, you want to be earning what you already earn if you change environments. So it is unusual. And there are lots of ways you can facilitate that, whether it's part of the transfer fee is a portion to the player, like something that's termed as a loyalty bonus, which sort of covers off a portion of their remaining contract. It's not unheard of for clubs to offset transfer fees by committing to pay a certain percentage of a player's salary even after they move. If you've played Football Manager, all the ways really. But yeah, that does go on, and it is hard, and it's also fair enough. Like if Arsenal tell Reece Nelson they're going to pay him in the region of $100,000 a year for 5 years, whatever we may think of that, he's entitled to say, well, you've committed to that.
Yeah, of course.
And if he wants to stay and take that money, I mean, listen, I'm sure, we know he wants to potentially go elsewhere and play, but in his head, he is owed that money, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's a short career, as we know, at the top of professional football. And who knows, maybe you retire and you spend all your money on a load of cartoon apes that are worth nothing. So you've got to look after yourself, while you can. That's all I'm saying. Right, final one from Fahim786 on the Discord. He said, hello, gents. My cat killed a magpie last week and left it by the side of our house. Any idea what the repercussions of this could be? I spotted 2 in our garden today, which is supposed to be good luck, if you believe in superstition. 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, that's it. But I can't help feel something bad is around the corner. James, as this is your area of expertise, what should I do?
Oh, man.
I mean, they're scouts.
Magpie on the doorstep.
They're scouts, aren't they?
Man, trouble's coming your way. What does it go? It goes 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, and if 1's dead on your doorstep, you're absolutely fucked.
That's the rhyme that they tell children in kindergarten, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
We'll be praying for you.
It's not going to end well, I don't think, unless you just get an army of cats. That's the only thing I can think of.
A cat army?
Yeah, some kind of cat army, and they can patrol your property and keep those magpies away. So let's hope...
okay. Get recruiting, I would say.
All right, well, let's leave it there for now. We'll continue our podcast during the week on the Euros, so you can join us for that over on Patreon, patreon.com/Arseblog. Enjoy the football, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
Great. Bye-bye. I forgot to say the right thing.
So did I. I completely fucked up that ending. Shall we try it again?
My cue was wrong, and then I panicked and said, great.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, thanks for being here. Thanks as always. And we will catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye. Yes. Textbook.